Imagine asking Claude about your customer data, sales figures, or inventory and getting accurate answers instantly. No SQL queries, no complex joins. Today, I am showing you exactly how to make that happen with a simple, working concept. What if AI lied to you about your own data and you never knew? That's the silent disaster. Your sales figures, customer records, every critical metric, they're locked away, requiring a technical key to access. You are making decisions in the dark, relying on summaries or gut instinct, while the raw truth sits just out of reach. This isn't just an inconvenience, it is a strategic blind spot that cripples your agility. So what's the human cost? The brilliant analyst buried in query requests. The sharp manager waiting days for a simple report. It's a direct drain on talent and momentum, turning every data question into a logistical bottleneck. That technical barrier does not just lock down data, it actively slows your entire organization to a crawl. Think of it like having a library with every book ever written, but no librarian, no card catalog. Every single question means you must manually search every shelf yourself. The raw knowledge exists, but it is functionally locked away. The key insight is that data's potential isn't just stored, it is actively neutralized by the complexity of access. You are sitting on a gold mine of data, but ask it a single question and the entire operation grinds to a halt. Teams wait, opportunities evaporate, and you are forced to manually decode cryptic queries. What this means is your intelligence platform is functionally blind. You have all the answers, but the cost of asking is simply too high. That gold mine turns into a quagmire when you need an answer. What this means is the data that should give you a competitive edge is instead creating friction and dependency, keeping critical business decisions waiting on a technical translation that never arrives quickly enough. You think AI data assistants need complex dashboards. They do not. Think of a universal translator. You speak naturally in English. Claude instantly interprets your intent, formulating the precise technical language a database understands. The key insight is this elimination of the middle layer. What this means is you bypass complex query writing entirely, gaining direct access to your data's story through simple conversation. Right now, you are giving your data all the power. This flips it. The database speaks your language now. A raw SQL result, a cold table, it becomes an immediate, plain English insight. That translation is the final, critical unlock. The query isn't the answer, the interpretation is. You stop extracting data and start receiving intelligence directly. This transformation is absolute. You are no longer a technician wrestling with syntax, you become a strategist asking questions. The barrier is gone. The database's logic and your understanding now operate as one system. You receive not just data points, but narrative and context, instantly shifting from manual retrieval to automated insight. Now, think about the scale of that promise. The pattern clearly indicates this is a universal bridge, whether you are managing transactions in PostgreSQL, running a web platform on MySQL, or handling analytics in Snowflake. What this means is your existing infrastructure, right now, can understand your questions. That translation layer becomes your single source of truth. The key insight is that the barrier isn't your data, it's the specialized language surrounding it. Your database already contains the answers. Claude removes the technical dictionary, acting as a universal interpreter. Instead of you learning its language, it finally learns yours, unlocking that information instantly. That's the profound shift. What if spreadsheets understood you like a person? Let's change that. That free key is your all-access pass to Claude's reasoning power. No complex AI model to download or manage. You are not just typing into a chat box, you are unlocking a full-scale intelligence ready to apply its understanding directly to your data. This is the bridge from conversation to execution. For that bridge to be meaningful, it needs somewhere to go. The destination is your PostgreSQL database, living locally or in the cloud. This is the structured truth, your company's operational memory, your user history, where Claude will plant its flag. Your data is no longer a passive asset, it's the raw material for intelligent, conversational inquiry. That Python environment isn't some sterile lab. It's the forge. We are bringing the raw computational intelligence of Claude right to the edge of your most valuable asset. This simple checklist item is the act of arming that intelligence, giving it the direct tools to manipulate and converse with your structured reality. So you have loaded the models and built the interface. Now, where does all this semantic intelligence actually live? The PageVector extension transforms your ordinary PostgreSQL database into a native home for AI embeddings. This is the bridge where Claude's understanding gets permanently anchored to your data, creating a persistent, queryable memory of meaning. But a connection is just a wire. SQL Alchemy is the robust, intelligent orchestrator. The key insight is this. It translates Claude's Python requests into the exact SQL your database understands. It manages sessions, handles errors gracefully, and ensures every query is a clean, secure conversation between your AI and your data's permanent home. This is your operational foundation. Forget complex dashboards, just ask your data anything in plain English. Now, we get our tools ready. Open your terminal and run a single pip install command for SQL Alchemy and the database driver you need. This isn't just installing libraries, you are unlocking the bridge that lets Claude reach directly into your structured data. That connection string isn't just a configuration line. It is the handshake, a private and secure credential that establishes a dedicated tunnel between Claude's reasoning engine and your proprietary data vault. You are, quite literally, wiring intelligence directly to the source of truth. Treat this key with the gravity it deserves. Now, PageVector. This isn't about adding a feature. It is a fundamental upgrade to your database's vocabulary. Without it, your data speaks one language, and Claude speaks another. They cannot truly understand each other. By installing this extension, you are building the universal translator that turns complex ideas into a shared mathematical space where meaning can be found. Think of your data like a library of books tossed on the floor. Right now, it's just a jumble of titles. Creating this sample table is your act of curation. You are carefully shelving each book, organizing it by theme and content. This structure is what transforms raw information into a knowledge base that Claude can intelligently browse and reference. Do not just run a standard test query. Anyone can do that. You are not checking for a green light. You are testing the intelligence of the connection itself. Ask it a real question from your data. Its answer, or failure, reveals the actual state of your pipeline. This is your first true conversation with your system. Make it a meaningful one. Imagine your AI assistant accessing data it was never trained on. Let's unlock Claude's potential. We need to give it secure, controlled access to your database. This step is crucial. We are establishing a direct, authenticated connection so Claude can retrieve live data on your behalf. The key insight is that proper configuration transforms Claude from a language model into a truly informed assistant. Now, we define the language Claude will use to understand your data. We are creating precise, plain English descriptions of each database table and column. What this means is you are building a translation layer, transforming technical schemas into concepts Claude can reason with. This is the crucial bridge between your raw data and intelligent, contextual answers. The key insight is that error handling isn't about preventing mistakes, it is about creating a resilient conversation. When Claude generates a query, the system anticipates potential misunderstandings and structures a graceful recovery. This means failed queries become learning moments, steadily refining the accuracy of future interactions without the user ever seeing the complexity. What this means is you are not just asking for data, you are defining how it's presented. The pattern clearly indicates that by specifying format, order, and detail upfront, you control the narrative. Your question in plain English directly determines whether the answer is a crisp summary or a detailed list, making every response immediately useful. Do not rush to the most complex query. The key insight is that simple questions reveal if the connection is truly alive. If it cannot tell you how many users signed up yesterday, it certainly will not forecast quarterly trends. What this means is that a foundational response proves the pipeline is working before you trust it with anything critical. Stop guessing your data. Start having a real conversation with it. This single line is what transforms your database from a passive storage unit into an active conversational partner. The function bridges natural language queries with precise, secure SQL execution. What this means is you have just removed the technical barrier entirely. Your data now speaks plain English. The pattern clearly indicates a fundamental shift. You are not just querying, you are conversing. This single line isn't just code, it is the intelligence. It dynamically interprets intent, constructs the command, and delivers the answer. Here's what's really happening. You have installed a translator that works in both directions, taking casual questions and returning authoritative data. The key insight is that your database has just gained a voice. This safety check is the system's conscience standing guard. It intercepts every request, verifying the intent is pure and the command is sound before anything touches your data. What this means is total confidence. You are not just automating queries, you are embedding a layer of thoughtful, automatic governance into the conversation. This single line holds the key to reliability. It does not just prevent overload, it introduces intelligent resilience. The system now adapts to API constraints and recovers from hiccups automatically. You gain a persistent, patient assistant that works with the underlying infrastructure, not against it, transforming a simple connection into a robust, real-world pipeline. You are almost there. This is the line that translates raw data into genuine conversations. The database no longer just spits out rows, it explains what the numbers actually mean. What you have built is now an intelligent partner that can answer your business questions directly and clearly. Forget coding, query any database in plain English instantly. What's truly remarkable is this: you just ask a natural question. The key insight is that complex SQL code is generated behind the scenes, then executed automatically. What this means is that you receive a precise answer to your business question immediately, with zero technical overhead. The pattern clearly indicates a fundamental shift in how we access data. Now let's ask it. What products sold best last quarter? A moment passes. The pattern clearly indicates the system is analyzing your schema, interpreting intent, and building the optimal query. Here's what's really happening: that perfect, complex SQL is generated and run. The result? You get a clear, immediate answer in plain English, no waiting. That's the power. But that's a boring question. You do not need an analysis to ask that. Ask it a real one. Which product is our biggest opportunity in the Southeast next quarter? That's the difference. The system breaks down your intent, combines inventory data with regional trends, and delivers the strategic insight you need, not just a static report. Now we are talking strategy. That generic sales question gets you numbers. But this gets you a decision. The system analyzes your inventory, interprets regional demand signals, and isolates the single product with the highest potential. You are not reviewing data, you are receiving a targeted recommendation for where to focus your efforts and capital. This question moves us from observation to action. The key insight is its ability to identify not just inactivity, but opportunity cost. It's finding the precise point where customer relationships are beginning to erode, allowing you to intervene with targeted re-engagement before that silence becomes permanent churn. You are moving from passive reporting to proactive retention. What if your entire business was one question away from answers it cannot give? Now imagine that very first question you asked was just the beginning. Claude remembers the full context. When you ask what changed from the prior quarter, it knows you are still talking about sales projections. This context is the difference between isolated facts and a real, flowing conversation about your business. This is where conversations turn into decisions. Now, ask Claude to consider that trend it just described. It can suggest chart types, identify key data points, and even craft clear descriptions. The key insight is this: Claude does not just interpret the data, it actively helps you prepare and narrate the story that data tells. This advanced feature transitions us from conversation to system. You move beyond asking questions to building a pipeline. Set a schedule, and Claude autonomously generates a narrative, distilling that day's or week's truth from the raw data, delivering it directly to your team's inbox. The system now works for you. Now, you are teaching the system your language. This isn't about synonyms, it's about encoding your unique logic into Claude. Define what a qualified lead or a critical churn risk truly means in your data. The key insight is that the system no longer just parrots data, it reasons with your proprietary definitions, finally speaking fluent business. So far, Claude's been operating in isolation. That ends now. The true power emerges when you integrate it across your entire data landscape. This advanced feature removes that single source limitation, enabling a unified view. What this means is Claude can now correlate, compare, and reason across all your disparate systems, delivering insights that were previously impossible to assemble. Forget dashboards. A true AI analyst talks directly to your data. Here's the biggest mistake developers make. Hard-coded credentials in your code are a ticking time bomb. The key insight is to always use environment variables or a secrets manager. What this means is that your database connection remains secure, invisible to anyone reading your source. Never ship credentials with your application, treat them like the keys to your vault. So, you've got Claude answering complex questions. Now imagine a user asking for every single customer transaction from the last 5 years. Without proper tuning, that query will bring your database to its knees. The key insight here is that Claude's English request generates raw SQL, which can be disastrously inefficient. You must proactively create targeted indexes and optimize your table structures before you go live. Your database might be screaming, and you wouldn't even know it. What this means is that each Claude interaction has a direct API cost. A few unoptimized requests or a sudden surge in user activity can derail your entire budget overnight. You must implement alerting to track these usage patterns before they become a financial shock. Trusting Claude with your data is like handing over the company books. A single misinterpreted question could produce a confidently wrong answer. You must validate those results. Before going live, run a set of known, precise queries and verify the responses line up with reality. This is your crucial safety check against costly hallucinations. Do not just test for today's questions. Load test for tomorrow's demand. The key insight is that a system that performs perfectly for 10 users can collapse under 100. What this means is you must proactively simulate a surge in traffic. Bottlenecks will surface under pressure, not in a quiet concept. Find and fix them now. Claude can bridge the gap between databases and human questions. Setup takes minutes with basic Python and database knowledge. Natural language queries eliminate technical barriers to data. Try connecting Claude to a test database this week and see what insights you uncover.